What's up guys, today we're going to be going over the Ehroar scepter in even more detail this time around. Sorry for messing up the pronunciation in yesterday's video. You guys don't have to tell me I don't know how to speak English, I already know that. My strength is what you're seeing on the screen right now. In this video we're going to be first going over some more things with the weapon, then breaking down what aspects and fragments it works with, then finally going over a crazy warlock build that makes this thing absolutely insane. That build will freeze everything in the entire game, and I'm waiting for it to actually freeze my game because of how much is going on. And it's only going to be the warlock build for this video. As you see, it's already extremely long, so fitting in 2 more builds was just not going to happen. And I'll be making a video on the Hunter and Titan build tomorrow probably. If you guys just want to skip straight to the warlock build, I'll put the timestamp on the screen right now. So let's go and get started. First, looking at the weapon. If you didn't watch yesterday's video, what it does is final blows with this weapon will generate a slowing burst around the defeated target, and when you get stasis final blows, it will return ammo to magazine from the reserves. So more or less what this weapon does is when you get a final blow, it creates a dust field that just doesn't pull enemies in, and the radius is pretty similar. If anything, it's a little bit bigger than that of a dust field, but it will slow then freeze them, which is very cool. And if we test how much ammo you get back per stasis final blow, as you'll see right here, you'll get 10 ammo back per kill, which with the right build will be happening non-stop, so you will never have to reload this weapon. Another thing I want to test is the DPS of this weapon because it is a special weapon. It hits 1541 on Carl. Now looking at the rate of fire of shooting off 40 shots, beams, whatever you want to call it, takes 2.5 seconds, which means 23.8 thousand DPS, which is honestly very low for a special weapon, but the way you use this weapon is more like a primary, so it's actually not that bad. So now looking at what aspects this works with, first on Warlock Ice Flare Bolts, this aspect will work with this weapon. Whenever you freeze a target and then kill them, it will then send out the Ice Flare Bolts from that defeated frozen target. So I guess it's not technically working from the weapon itself, it's from defeating the frozen targets, which is more or less the same name because you'll be doing that all the time with this weapon. The next one on Warlock we can test will be Glacial Harvest, which will give you stasis shards whenever you freeze a target. And once again, this one will work with this weapon because you'll be freezing targets left and right. And overall, I think this aspect will be extremely important later on in the season. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, and it's gonna be crazy. So now moving on to the Hunter aspects, the only one really to test is Grim Harvest, which is the same one as the Glacial Harvest, but now you have to defeat the slowed or frozen target to create the shard, and once again it does work as expected. And just like the Warlock one, with the mod that's coming out later in the season, this could be crazy. The one aspect really needing testing on Titan is Diamond Lance to see if you can spawn in the Stasis Lance from final blows, and as expected at this point, it does work, and you'll get that Lance to spawn in. You can go around and throw it, you can slam it, do whatever you want with it, and you'll be spawning in these things on cooldown non-stop with this weapon on. So all the aspects that you would think it would work with, it does work with. Now moving on to the fragments. Which fragments work with this weapon? Well, pretty much all of them will work with the weapon, just like the aspects, because once you freeze a target or slow a target, I mean, it doesn't matter how they're getting frozen or slowed, it will work. The one that isn't clear if it works or not is Whisper Endurance, which will increase the duration of slow effects. This weapon does slow targets, but it will freeze them after like half a second, so even if it did work, it pretty much would do nothing anyways. But the one that is interesting is Whisper of Rending, which will make kinetic weapons do more damage versus frozen targets. So if we look at that, at first glance, it seems like it will work because it is in the kinetic slot. As you see, we hit 1541, then we freeze Carl, we'll go to 1618. But the thing about this increase is it's not from the fragment. If we take it off, do the same thing, the exact same result will happen. So this increase we're seeing is from just simply having the target frozen, which just happens in general in the game. And it does not work because it technically has an element tied to it. The last thing I want to test is Focusing Lens, where your light abilities do bonus damage to combatants affected by stasis. And this season, just like the first season this mod was available, it is increasing your Well of Radiance damage because the damage in a well is counted as ability damage. So as long as a target is affected by stasis, you'll get 25% more damage in the well. So showing off what that means, if I shoot at Carl in a well with my SMG and also my trace rifle, here are the numbers, then we go ahead and freeze the target, my SMG damage will go up, but the stasis one will not because the stasis weapon is not coded as a light ability in the well. But the question is someone shooting the stasis rifle at Carl counting as being affected by stasis? And it does not, as you see right here. I think there was a few questions about if that would work or not, but it's still great to pair Focusing Lens with this weapon if you're using a light subclass because it'll make all of your abilities do that 25% more damage. But I think if you're the one using this weapon, you want to be on the stasis subclass to take advantage of the aspects and fragments. So I think it's gonna be more important for your teammates to be running Focusing Lens while they're using a light subclass. And that is all the testing for this weapon. Up next will be the Warlock build, but first a quick word from today's video sponsor. Let's just stop here and do a fast experiment. Use your finger and touch all of your teeth and your gums, wait for a few seconds, then smell your finger. More than likely, it doesn't smell good, so why do your teeth smell this bad? It is because you never use the base brushing technique, and if you're like me, you probably don't know what that even means, so just watch the following clip. There are more than 200 billion bacteria in your mouth, and all food particles will have some chemical reaction with these bacteria and generate a material called dentin. These dentins will erode your enamel and damage the nerves in your teeth. And don't think the bacteria will stop there. Some bacteria will follow your bloodstream into your body and potentially cause severe disease. If you don't want to experience the pain and waste thousands of dollars to visit a dentist, I suggest you guys pay more attention on your brushing technique. Think back to when you're brushing your teeth every morning. Are you just a robot just going through the motions? Do you even brush your teeth for more than 2 minutes? And do you use the base brushing technique? You might think you are, but in fact you never do it right. And that is where the Sonic electric toothbrush comes into play, and it's made to solve these problems. Its brushing speed is 100 times faster than a normal toothbrush, and research shows that after 3 months of usage, the chance of bleeding and inflammation will be reduced by 62%, and it'll clear the dentin 38% better than a manual toothbrush. I've been using the M-Teeth X5 series toothbrush for a month, and my teeth are in the best shape they've been in a very long time. It comes with all the features you expect from a Sonic electric toothbrush. For example, it comes with 3 different modes. The mode I like the most is the cleaning mode because it has the highest frequency and will clean your teeth the quickest. Overall, getting this electric toothbrush will only cost you 1/3 of a dental visit, and M-Teeth is so confident with their product that they promise a 30-day free return and a free 1-year warranty. Also, right now they are offering a 30% discount to people that are coming from this video. Go ahead and click the link down below and use the coupon listed. The X5 series is totally worth it. Once again, thanks to M-Teeth for sponsoring today's video. Alright, time for the crazy Warlock build that will just freeze everything in the entire game. This build will take advantage of elemental well mods. So the first question is, can you even create stasis wells, and how do you go about doing that? Well, pretty much the only way to do it right now is with elemental armaments, which will make it so our stasis weapons can create stasis wells, but with the scepter shattering the frozen targets and not from the weapon itself. So what else could you use potentially to make it work? Well, melee well maker will work. Whenever you use your charged melee, it will create a stasis well, but that's obviously only once. You could also try elemental ordnance, but with all these stasis grenades, none of them actually get the final blow. Once again, it is the crystals or the frozen target shattering that is getting the final blows. So the best way to create wells with stasis is actually explosive well maker, which is whenever you get rapid kills with explosions, it will create a solar elemental well, and does not have to be solar damage. Just any type of explosion in the game will work with this, even like grenades on arc subclasses and things like that. So as you see, every single time we shatter a frozen target and we get multiple kills with that, it will create a solar elemental well, which is very consistent, and that'll be happening all the time with this build. So that is going to be our first mod of choice, explosive well maker, to create solar elemental wells, and with that we'll be using Well of Ordnance, which will give us more grenade energy when we pick up a solar well. And if we go ahead and look at our stasis setup, we have the normal abilities on, and we have Frost Pulse to make our Rift freeze when we place it. Then we also have Bleak Watcher for the stasis turrets. Then looking at our fragments, we have Whisper of Torment to get a little bit more grenade energy when we take damage. Fissures to increase the radius and damage of the stasis explosions. Then we have Refraction to give us class ability energy back when we defeat a frozen target. And finally, Whisper Bonds to get our super extremely quick. And as you saw, we are using the Vesper Radius exotic, which will create a burst of arc energy whenever we place our rift. Then we'll also get our rift back quicker while surrounded by enemies. So along with the fragment we already showed off, we also have 2 stacks of utility kickstart on our bond that will give us class ability energy when we use it. So now if we look at how all of that works, we just put down a rift in the middle of a group, it will freeze them all and instantly kill them all because of the Vesper radius. And if you get enough kills, you will already have your next rift back. If you don't, you just gotta get a few more frozen kills and you'll have it again. So you pretty much have infinite rifts with this build that can just chain over and over again. And every single time that happens, you'll create a solar elemental well, which will give you grenade energy because of this mod right here. And even though they're not matching our subclass, they'll still give us a chunk of energy for our lowest ability whenever we pick it up. So if you're only using the rift, you'll still get the full chunk of rift back whenever you pick up the solar elemental well, along with that grenade energy. This build is also a Bleak Watcher build, so we can use 2 grenade kickstarts on our gloves to get a chunk of our grenade back right when we throw it. So what we can do is just convert our grenade. We'll get roughly 20% back just because of the kickstarts. Then as we shatter the frozen targets, we'll create solar elemental wells, pick those up, and you'll get another 30-35% of your grenade back. So you'll get your full grenade after picking up 2 solar wells. The weapons of choice for this build will be a auto-loading grenade launcher, preferably the Truth Teller if you have it. If not, the empty vest will work fine too. Then in our heavy slot, we have the Reed's Regret, which is the Stasis Linear Fusion. If you don't have this one, you could also just use any linear in the game. And the reason I have an auto-loading GL is because if you just shoot one target with the Scepter, it will then freeze everything nearby. You pull out the GL and it will just shatter everything for you. And it'll help you conserve ammo for the Scepter and kind of use it more like a primary. That way you can take advantage of the double specials. And by the time you're ready for next group, auto-loading will have your GL ready and you just do it again. The final mods we'll be using is elemental armaments to create elemental wells, and there's going to be 2 different types we'll be creating. First, we'll be creating stasis ones with the Scepter, then also Reed's Regret. Then with our Truth Teller, we'll be making void ones. So when we create a stasis well and pick it up, we have Phantom Might, which will give us a 25% buff to the Scepter, then also Reed's Regret. Then if we do create a void one and pick it up, we have Well of Utility, which will give us class ability energy when we pick it up. So overall, this build will be creating stasis, solar, and void elemental wells. Oh, and if you thought that was all, since we have infinite rifts with Vesper Radius, what we can do is with the Fragment Whisper Bonds, we can further combo that with double dynamo on our helmet, which will give us a crazy amount of super whenever we use our rift. You'll get a huge chunk just from placing the rift itself. Then whenever the enemies die, since they're frozen, it will then give you a chunk because of the fragment. And if you do this right, you can get your entire super in like 4 rift placements, which is pretty crazy. So overall, this build has infinite uptime on your rift, grenade, and pretty much your super, all of which will be freezing everything in the game. Then on top of that, you have the Scepter, which will be freezing even more stuff. Then you have an auto-loading GL to quickly shatter the groups of enemies, all of which will be creating solar elemental wells, stasis elemental wells, and also void elemental wells. Whenever you pick up the solar one, you'll get a chunk of your lowest ability, plus a huge chunk of your grenade. If you pick up a void one, once again, you'll get a chunk of your lowest ability, then also your class ability. Then finally, if you pick up a stasis one, you'll get a chunk of all 3 of your abilities, along with a 25% increase to your stasis weapon damage. So yeah, if you're using this build, the entire game will be frozen at all times. It is impossible for anything to move. It is crazy. And overall, it's definitely one of the most intricate builds I've ever made. And it honestly took me a few hours to piece all of the different mods together. It was pretty much a puzzle. The only piece of the puzzle I couldn't work in was particle deconstruction, which isn't that big of a deal because you're only using a linear fusion rifle. And if you're playing activity with teammates, if anyone gets the ×5 going on the boss, it'll work for everyone's fusions and linears. So as long as you have one person on your team still using that, you'll still be fine. And yeah, I think that's gonna be it for the video, just some strike gameplay left. I'm looking to make the Hunter and Titan build tomorrow, and I'm gonna try to find something as cool as this one for those 2 characters. Like usual, thanks for watching, catch you guys next time.